The poem of the day, and okay.
You usually also introduce per Monday or something like that. No.
Yes. She introduces Power Monday and then she gives us the poem of the day. Thank you so much, and karibu sana, Dr. Lucita.
Thank you, Lady Noel. Thank you, OPP. Thank you, everyone. It's a beautiful Monday morning from the beautiful country. It is Monday number 16 out of 52. We have 36 more to go. And we couldn't be more happier and more grateful to God for such a beautiful day. We are the Power Monday. We are the powerhouse. We demystify the fact that Monday morning are boring days. There are those analogies that say that it's either you're having an affair or you're stealing when you love Monday mornings at work. But as we love Mondays, we have no such theories. So we meet every single Monday, except when it is a public holiday in Kenya. As from 7:15 to 8:15, we discuss diverse topics on personal development. And who knows, you could make your million from such a platform. And it is absolutely free. Not only do we meet virtually, we meet physically as what we term as meet and greet. We meet every quarter. And if you are in our group, you couldn't have missed the itinerary. The meet and greet is culminated with a dinner, which the plans are already underway. And oh my, you can't miss. Not only do we have this, we have a CSR, and all the plans have been highlighted in our group. Allow me to delve directly into today's poem. It is titled When It Ends. Oh my. Everything that has a beginning always has an end. However painful some ends could be, some doors surely need to be closed. When it ends, when it ends, when it surely ends, I want you to sob, cry if you have to. Let the silence break you. Let the heavy heart spill over. Let the hidden sorrow awake, because surely it has ended. When it ends, cry. Cry it out. Don't hold on to it. Let those tears write their stories because of where you've been. Surely it has ended. When it ends, let the night feel as long as it has to be, because you know in that pain you're going to get again, and let that pain make a story. Because when it ends, sometimes your voice feels very small. Your world goes quiet, is silence. It feels like it's a third fall. You have ended. But remember, it has ended. It is not you who has ended. Because when it ends, it's time for you to reincarnate. Because when it ends, it's time for you to rise up. Through the pain, remember the sun will always rise, because that has ended. When it ends, rise through every steps, however slow they may be. Remember, healing ain't sudden. Rise up, because it has ended. When it ends, keep going, don't stay still. There is fire within you. Why did it start in the first place? You are stronger than your will, because it ended. When it ends, keep going through the ache. Every step you're taking is a choice that you make. Choose to rise up. When it ends, remember you're done. Close that chapter, lock that door, open another one, because it ended and the sun is rising again. So when it ends, do not stay still. Rise up, keep going, keep walking, because that ended, and you will outgrow that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, thank you so much, Dr. Lucita. I love this particular sentence. When it ends, know that it is not you that has ended. I believe that it is just that season and whatever it is that has ended, but you as a person, you have not ended. So that was such an awesome poem. That was great. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucita. We appreciate you for gracing Power Monday, every Monday with a poem. Asante sana. Asante sana. I have my sister's house. There's a time she used to listen when I was there. And until now, she tells me that her favorite poem is Keep Moving. Keep moving, keep moving. Anyway, so I call upon Cynthia, who is going to introduce the guest speaker of the day. Cynthia.
Thank you, Lady Noel, for the opportunity to introduce the speaker. And thank you so much, Dr. Lucita, for that wonderful poem. Well, to start us off, ladies and gentlemen, fellow leaders, let me start us off with a question for today's learning. Will your vision outlast your signature? Building wealth is hard, but ensuring it endures across generations is the real test of leadership. And to help us wrestle with this, we are privileged to have with us Kyesubire Talitwala-Greigg. Talitwala is a leadership and growth coach. She is a strategist and a Pan-Africanist who helps businesses and professionals turn clarity into action. With nearly 3 decades of experience, she has worked extensively with MSMEs across Africa. She's the co-founder and lead trainer at the African MSME Collective and the founder of Hakiko Stories. Today, she will guide us and help us learn the high stakes art of intergenerational transfer. Please join me in warmly welcoming Kyesubire Talitwala-Greigg, and I hope I've gotten the name right. Asante and karibu.
Kyesubire, where are you? Should be able to unmute.
Morning, everybody, and apologies for the technology issues.
No, but think good people.
Good to go now. Aki, don't laugh at me.
No, I'm saying, you see, you did not create it. When it ends.
And don't sweat it when it ends. Just keep moving. Fantastic. So my name is Kyesubire. Yes, Cynthia, you did a really good job for the first time hearing you pronounce my name. It doesn't always happen that way. So today we're talking about the architecture of intergenerational transfer. I changed the thingy just a little bit because when I was preparing, I realized it is not a simple thing to do intergenerational. So I'm learning to go quickly. I'm a teacher, so I always seem to prepare a lot when I'm going to facilitate. Then we can do conversations in a short bit. All right. So what we're looking at doing is building a sustainable edge. And the use of that word edge is very deliberate. So as you were told, my name is Kyesubire Talitwala, and I am the co-founder at the African MSME Collective, as well as founder of Hakiko Stories. And really, our intention is sustainability. At AMC, what we work to do is build businesses that will last the test of time, which means you can pass it, hopefully, to your children's children. At Hakiko, we help leaders understand how to package themselves, doing communication, through using communication, storytelling, and a lot of fun. So that's a little bit about me. Why does this conversation sit so well with me? My family, I have seen intergenerational transfer, positive and negative. So this is a very personal topic to me. So let's dive in. It matters because we often focus on our careers, our businesses, our opportunities, but rarely do we ask what will outlast us, except when it comes to a place of money. Now, what our families create, our businesses create, has to be value right? But the usual pattern we currently have is you create one value in one generation and lose it in the next. I want us to think, and let's put it in the chat, in the chat. How many, list 3 businesses you know that have successfully done an intergenerational transfer and the 3rd generation now runs it? 3 businesses you know that now the 3rd generation is who is at the helm. Let's quickly do that. I'm going to come back to the chat and see it. Why is that? Because continuity is not automatic. Just because you started it does not mean that it will be there. So continuity has to be intentional. As I think about it, even the big brands, several generations down, all right, you see that the names we're putting there is big brands. I see ICA, I see Torres, okay. Anyone else? There's a jeweler where I used to do all my jewelry shopping. They did generation 1, 2, 3, 4 is not interested. So how do we do intergenerational transfer? That is the conversation we're having this morning. And I hope you will enjoy it as much as I love this topic because it challenges everything we know about ourselves, all right? So the tension we experience is that we're benefiting from things we did not build and are building things we may never see. If you look at even in scripture, I do a lot of scripture reference because that's where I get some of my best thoughts. In scripture, when Abraham is, in fact, he's still, he was Abraham when he was told this. He's told, your generations will be as vast as the sand of the sea and the stars in the sky. He did not see them. He saw maybe Isaac and a few of his other children, but he had to grab onto a vision that he himself would not see. But believe that because the word was given and because he was doing what he needed to do, there would be those generations. We are those ones. So everyone is either a recipient of what came before, not either. We are both recipients of what came before and contributors to what comes next. And this is the thing. Even if you're not living wealth, as in pesa, money, you are living something. So what it is your life is about, imagine you are unconsciously doing intergenerational transfer because something is always passed on. Now, the reason we talk about the architecture of it is because now that we know liwe liwalo tunapitisha kitu, we have to be in the place where we are intentionally now transferring something. Most of us are transferring unintentionally. I see Safari Park Hotel. How many generations has it passed? I think it's only 2. We are not yet at 3. All right? Rightly, I believe you. You see, we are struggling to find these businesses. What about families, individual families you know that have understood this tension and are using it for their benefit? Do you know families where the wealth has passed from the parents to the, Sarova is a good example, from the parents to their children, to their grandchildren, and now it is in transit to the great-grandchildren. Those are just thoughts I want you to bear in mind. That is a good example. So we have what we call the cycle of stewardship. Intergenerational transfer is not a one-time event. It's a continuous cycle. So I receive, I manage, I steward, I multiply, and then I pass it on. My son receives, manages, multiplies, passes it on. His son or daughter receives, multiplies, passes it on. Now, if we look at how our families work, our 4 parents, let me use my mother's side of the family. My great-grandfather had enough land to give to all his sons, right? My grandfather inherited, no, he didn't inherit. My grandfather bought 20 acres of land. He did coffee on most of it, ceded some to his brother, and that land has now passed to my mother's generation. In Kamba culture, the family homestead is maintained by the last born, so the last born has it, and they're in the process of transferring management rights because there's a caveat on that piece of land to the next generation. So it doesn't matter that there are 5 boys and they want land. The instruction, the generational transfer that my great-grandfather instituted is young men jipangeni. So they provided education, connected you to opportunities if they could, but hey, you have education, you can think your way out of it. What my grandfather did is that he bought at least an acre or an acre and a half for every daughter-in-law, not son. It was given to the daughters-in-law so that their children would have a place to lay their heads. And then over time, when my uncle took over the runnings after my grandfather died, he went and put caveats on all those pieces of land. So they cannot be sold, but they can transfer within the ecosystem. Fast forward to my generation, some of my cousins are being crazy, loopy. The thing that saved their children from being homeless is this thing of land from our grandfather passed to their mothers, who are the daughters-in-law. My mother is a daughter in the home, so she didn't get that particular one. And then because of the caveat, now they have a place to call their homes. But remember, this is land coming down. My cousin has transmitted crazy behavior. So generational transfer, remember, is not just wealth, all right? You receive something, you steward it, you multiply, you transfer. So you can receive behavior, steward it, multiply it, and transfer. And by and large, we as the Black Africans struggle with intergenerational transfer. Because when you look at the Somali Kenyan, the Indian Kenyan, the white Kenyan, they do not have as much trouble transferring generational wealth. Look at Ramco Group. Ramco Group is a collection of companies within the same extended family across generations. It was started by Mzee Ramco, who ran Ramco Hardware. His son was Ramco Printing, and the daughter was, I forget what company the daughter was, but he extended it out to his brothers, his nephews, his nieces, so they came under a holding group. Now the holding group negotiates. So market power is part of the holding group. If market power gets a diary printing job, they do not print diaries, but they will take the job, pass it to Ramco Printing, who will deliver the work and dispatch it to market power's client. We all make money. But remember, money, and I say it with confidence, is the lowest level of intergenerational transfer, lowest, but it is the one level we glorify above all else. Why do I say lowest level? How many of our wealthy families, they inherit money and in 5 years they're broke? So money was not the most important thing they should have been given. So this is a holistic look at intergenerational transfer, because as leaders, because each of us is a leader because we have influence, our responsibility is managing the cycle in our season. So if nothing passes between my child and me to my child, there's a problem. Additionally, I want you to expand your view of intergenerational transfer and understand that every place you have responsibility, you are executing a transfer. If you are the leader of your local community, transfer, because transfer is not only biological. If you are a CEO in a company, yours or not, you are transferring. If you are a minister in church, in your fellowship, you are transferring. If you sit on the elders' court and you are all doing crazy things, you are transferring. So transfer, yes, starts individually in our homes, but our lives are not just lived in our homes. So everywhere we go, we are doing an intergenerational transfer. Again, understand, intergenerational transfer is not top down. An intergenerational transfer can be from our children to us, because our children can show us things that are not working that we should not pass down. That's an intergenerational transfer of knowledge. All right? So we all receive, we steward, multiply, transfer. Let that sit with you, because everywhere you go, you are executing a transfer. All right? Now, it begins at home. Why some people have certain things they cannot do? Transfer didn't happen. Or there was no knowledge on that particular matter. So if you are well-versed, knowledgeable, you are able to ace everything, kudos. Help others, because not all of us get the same transfer. Home is a prototype for values. It is where emotional security enables risk-taking. So when you find risk-averse people, don't castigate them, go back. When you find a gaslighter, try and find out where they grew up. I deal with young people a lot, and I have a couple of my Gen Zs who are working to stop being toxic because they grew up in toxic homes. So when one of them was really talking badly about their parent, I said, let's look at the family. And they were able to go back 3 generations and find this particular set of toxic behavior. So then they understood that my parent is repeating what they experienced, and their grandparents experienced it from the great-grand, so we couldn't trace it beyond then. Because of a lack of emotional security, certain things come in. Character is formed at home before it is displayed. So when I look at my children, I can really tell tulifanya nini wakiwa wadogo. It's possible to see that. So what are some tactical home strategies? Number 1, family table. Some people call it family altars, right? You sit around the table and you tell the story of where you came from, the lessons you learned, the things you don't want passed on, the people your foreparents were. I have the blessing on both sides of my family to know, at least from my great-grandparents, a few things. Am I deliberately cataloging? I realized not as well as I should. Will my grandchildren know who their grandfather was? I need to put that down somewhere. But I learned to do certain things by watching my parents, by listening to conversations around the table, by being told, as Talitwalas, we don't. Or the other bunch do. Then my father would say, my family, we don't. Up what 20, not us. I learned from my grandmother in the kitchen with her, smoky with allergies, teaching me why it's important to light a firewood fire. My mother still uses a firewood fire. So at the family table, values are passed, mentorship happens. That's the first layer of learning. And then the labor of love, which means involving our children in the work we do to prevent entitlement. Many of the big chains have gone down. Let's talk about some of our African businesses. If you look at why the 3rd generation got nothing, generation 1 worked themselves to the bone, 2 enjoyed the spoils, learned very little, transferred nothing. So between 2 and 3, it is our wealth, we must eat it, forgetting that wealth is made, managed, multiplied, and then transferred. All right. So one generation becomes consumptive. And happen now we're in a place where guys are like, but how are you guys like that? And no one taught us better. So think about yourself holistic. The process center is where you teach to think. Thinking is not natural. Passing information around our brains is natural. Thinking and the capacity to identify cause, effect, solution is a thing that is taught. We have to be taught to process information. That's why many of us, because we hear with the lens of our pain and our past, there are things nobody can tell us about. Okay? When you look at it also, you will find that we have to find a place where our children can fail safely. In African culture, many times we say we talk badly about failure. Failure is the best classroom. It is a classroom and not a thing or a place to shame people with. So in our home, now sometimes some of us don't get this at home. So in our places of influence, can we change the tables? We can change the names. If I'm working it with my teens, I may not call it family table. We call it round table. So every Sunday we sit round the table with anything between 13 and 25 of them, and we discuss the biblical principle in today's life. And the things we learn there, hey, please, the learning is more for us than them. And then we apply information in a pattern that they can understand. So it begins in the home. And if it doesn't begin in the home, then we need to create new classrooms, all right? So an intergenerational transfer is a launch pad, not a gift. I remember a young man, he was flunking out in school. His father was wealthy. One of his mentors asked him, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "My father is rich. I don't need to read." Do our children speak like that? Because what we're doing is we have failed to pass an intangible asset to the generation. Why do we want to pass these assets? So that they start with a bit more ease. So that we can help accelerate their progress. And part of the progress we must demand is really how do they give back to community. So really, it is the edge you provide to ensure the next generation does not start from zero. Just because I started from zero doesn't mean my son should start from zero. The mandate of this is that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So in our thinking, our children should be covered already. From the point at which we bring them forth, we must begin to transfer. So understand that intergenerational transfer can begin in utero. How you treat your children's mother when she's carrying your child, that child is able to understand the emotions, the full spectrum of what their mother is going through. So they will experience your screaming, your shouting if you are. They will experience your love and your warmth and your speaking to them if you are. As a mother, when you're carrying in utero, what are you doing? How do you speak to that child? Are you consistently whining and complaining? If you got pregnant out of wedlock, what did you say? Because the child absorbs your rejection. And the reality is, I have said, the lowest level of transfer is money. Because if you leave money without a framework to manage it, to grow it, to multiply it, you've left a burden, not a blessing. You will leave children who are fighting in the courts, as we have seen, to the extent of killing one another, or complete defamation of their siblings. Is that what you want to leave? You could leave an organization. I remember one of my leads, one of the places I served left. And he had brought a bunch of us in. It's a social organization, and people were going to exit. And he turned to me. I don't know if he said to the rest, but he said to me, "Kyesubire, if you leave, number one, we came on a godly agenda. God's agenda is lost. Number two, if you all leave and the things we started as a team die, my legacy is then a failure." And that's the day I realized, just because he's not family, we're working on projects together, it doesn't eliminate me from intergenerational transfer. All right? So what are we giving as an edge to those in our care? Not just our children. We lead teams. What are we leaving for our teams? If you do not develop leaders and you're a leader, you have not transferred. And your legacy becomes short-lived. So let's think about those things. All right. So 4 pillars we must look at, and I'll really fly through this. Human capital is the foundation. This is who the person is. Without it, all other assets are eventually lost. So here we're looking at character, we're looking at ethics, we're looking at attitude, resilience, faith, and belief systems, because faith is what guides us through difficult times. So if we have not developed the internal temerity in our people that they cannot hold firm in the midst of a storm, we have not provided the most critical elements of transfer. And then health and vitality. So how does health and vitality look at work? I will not be the boss demanding people work 10-hour days without a break. I stand up every 90 minutes. So can I teach my team to do the same thing? Stand up, walk to the water point, stand up, go to the washroom. At lunchtime, take a break. Even if you have work, could it be 15 minutes? That's the difference between a high-performing team consistently and people who perform in bursts. Today, we're doing well. The rest of the week, we're frumpy. Or we do well for Jan, Feb, March. Then the rest of the year, we are struggling. So the human capital transfer is the first transfer. Then we jump into the intellectual capital transfer, which is the capacity to know how to do, how to live, how to be, because we become before we do and before we have. That's the line. So here we allow people to know, to think, and teach them to process information. So this is where we're going to teach critical thinking. We're going to teach communication. We're going to teach financial literacy. Because what is money if you give it to me and I don't know how to spend it? I'm just doing party after party after party. There'll be no money. I know a certain media personality who, back in the day when $1 million was a big thing, when we were in like high school, their campus, his parents left them 39 million. There are 3 siblings. Quick math, divide by 3, kila mtu apate 13 million, tuendelee na maisha. As the eldest son, he squandered the wealth of the family. And in 5 years, they were done. There was no money. Why? He had never touched so much money, and he did not have the financial literacy to understand that unless you're planting it as seed, growing and multiplying it, money is finite. All right? And then there's your family narrative in the intellectual capital segment. All right? Social capital. This is the key, the access to where they can get the connections they need. So this is who you know and who trusts what you inherit, who trusts you have the capacity to continue. Now, in this category, the best thing on the family line is a good name. Don't leave your child a name that people will close doors on. Leave them a name that when they are in trouble, their name will open doors. And I'll give a very personal story. Many years ago, I was running a business and we were in the red. Things were really, really bad. The building where we were, you needed to clear your arrears before you could leave. And it was a commercial building, so we had, I think, 3 months rent as our deposit. We were in such a bad place. I could not even raise the salary of our cleaner of 7K. So we had let the team go, but I needed to get out of the building. So one of our suppliers sent us debt collectors, my friend. Hardest, longest day of my life. Anyway, so I was like, what else can we do? So I said, let me talk to the building. So I talked to the caretaker. I asked him for Mze's number. He's like, no. I said, this is what I want to do. He says, you do, but it has never happened in the history of this building. So I wrote, and as you know, my name has always been hyphenated. So I wrote the letter. I asked to be able for him to deduct what we owed for that month. I think we were behind a month and a half or something like that. And then just give us the last month of deposit and allow us to exit. The caretaker took the letter, he read it, and then Mzee said, I want to meet this person. The caretaker asked me, what? I said, me ni Kyesubire tu. happens that when I got to see Mzee, he said, "Who is this Talitwala?" I said, "Oh, is he so and so?" I said, "Yes." "Who is he to you?" And I said, "He is my father." Do you know, in his words, he said, "That is the only reason I gave you an audience. Because I know a man like this." So apparently, when my father was teaching engineering at the University of Nairobi, this old man was one of his students. He said, "The man I know is an honest and honorable man. So if you are related to him, you must be in deep trouble because he would not raise dishonor." In that moment, I knew, yeah, Kyesubire. But a good name got me quick exit. So we were allowed. He said, "I have your money." So last month, this month, counted paid. He issued a check to me. In fact, it was dozens of bank is calling. So I took the check in my personal name so that I could offset other people. And we left the building in 7 days. If I did not have the benefit of a good name, the end, I would be stuck, unable to move. What were we also able to do? Live with all our property, offload it so that we can generate more income to clear the debt we are. But I left that place knowing a good name is priceless. It's also a phone book or a network. If you can call somebody to make a connection, pass that as a gift to your children. Teach your team members to build those things, because some of us are not left with tangible assets. So we have to learn the special skill of building, because transfer is whatever it is that comes down. So we know that many of us, the transfer was not positive. Let us work to make it positive. Community. Have you handed your children over into a community? Have you taught them to live with people? Are you teaching your teams to live together? So that's our social capital. And then we look at structural and financial capital, which now is the vessel. All right. This is the tangible wealth and the systems that protect it. Please watch those words, systems that protect it. It's teaching governance. It's teaching accountability. Put in a system. What are your liquid assets? What are your solid assets? How are you supporting what you're transferring? It is important to understand that if you just transfer wealth, tangible wealth, without the systems to protect it, then you have left a burden. And I said it before, because now your generations will fight and another generation will lack something. In the recent past, we have seen big families fighting for wealth, and some of them who needed the money for treatment losing their lives because we are tied up in court. All right? So when we look at it and we realize that it is intentionally built, the question I will ask is, what are you building? Do you have a builder's mindset? So we are talking architectural thinking, which is, what is the blueprint? Don't just hand a car, hand the ecosystem thinking behind it. When you have a car, yes, you paid money to have it, buy it because you had the money. But have you taught the next generation? They need to maintain it. They need to do deep service once or twice a year, at least 5,000 kilometers, peleka minor service, do deep service a couple of times a year. Do they understand insurance? Do they understand how to protect, how to drive, how to defensive drive to protect yourself? Do they understand the blueprint and ecosystem behind it? Architectural thinking. The stewardship of potential. Are you raising successors, people who can see where you're going because they've seen the blueprint, understand why you're going that way, and strengthen and consolidate where you're coming from? And are we teaching delayed gratification? We live in a generation that say, YOLO, you only live once. True, you only live once, but you also only transfer once. So do you want your generations? And I know in the current ecosystem, the Gen Zs are like, We don't want to think about what we're leaving. Just let me ask you a question. Somebody asked me 2 years ago, what kind of ancestor do you want to be? Because whether you think it's important or not, the future will judge you based on what you leave behind. You do not want to leave your children in squalor. The Millionaire Mindset is a book I read a couple of months ago. And this is a story of people who moved from blue collar to millionaire. Some did it in a generation. But what happened is that their fourth generation was in squalor. Why? The architecture was not properly passed. Because you become a millionaire, I say my children will have a softer life. They won't work as hard as me. So they choose other professions. And then that thing of, oh, not work as hard as me keeps going down the line until there is a generation who have enjoyed so much soft life, they cannot get up and build. All right. So this is the foundation of why build. So what we're looking at is we want to make the strategic move from a consumer mindset to a builder mindset. Consumer spends and protects. It is mine. My siblings should not get. That time I'm spending like crazy. A builder mindset sees it as seed and multiplies. So succession is an intentional developmental process, not a legal event. Succession happens long before the lawyers pass on the deed. All right? It happens long before we shift jobs. So how do we do this? A couple of strategies. Number one, understand that building has to outlast you. All right? If it's going to be sustained, it must be structured. For anything to survive multiple generations, we must have stability, profitability, and stewardship. All right? So let's look at stability. Stability is the structure. It is documentation. Do you have SOPs? Do you have a family charter? This is who we are as. Do you have a systemized way of thinking that you can repeatedly teach? Do you have governance, clear rules of leadership and continuity? In my mother's family, because we had working a lot on intergenerational transfer, the Wazers have retired from the leadership. So now it is my generation. In my cousin set, we have generation A, B, and C. Generation A at the age of the youngest in the siblings because of the age gap amongst the siblings. Generation B is mine. C is they're now in their early 40s, right? So in those generations, what we have deliberately done as a family, leadership sits with us. The current family secretary is from the grandchildren. So do you have a governance system that you're passing on? So that is stability. Profitability is the engine. So create space for the next generation to build, innovate, transform, edit. Identify places in your family culture that are not working. Challenge them because you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Challenge them because they think differently to suggest edits. All right? Are we building resilience in whatever line of work they take so that it's not, my boss talked badly at me, I leave work? No, we are teaching. Think through the process. What is it that I did to contribute to this thing? Is it worth my leaving? And are we teaching them multiplication? How to live on less than they earn, put it somewhere in a savings vehicle, grow it big enough to drop it into a bigger investment vehicle that has better returns? Are we teaching them that if you have one, you buy at 1 shilling, sell for 3 shillings, or sell for 1 shilling and 50 cents? Are we teaching them the math of multiplication? If we are not, the question I need us to ask ourselves is, do we even know the math of multiplication? So do we have innovation embedded in who we are? Are we giving our children and indeed our teams career resilience? And are we teaching multiplication? Because that is the engine. We have to sustain and grow. Because remember, we receive, we steward, we multiply, and then we transfer. And then stewardship is really the soul of intergenerational transfer, because we are ensuring that what is built remains. The minimum standard ibaki vile vile. So kubaki vile vile is difficult because inflation happens, right? Because over time certain things need to be adjusted. So empowerment, are we measuring success by growth and expansion, not just profit? Somebody had mentioned the Aga Khan group. They have grown exponentially. They have nation media, they have the university teaching hospital, and they just began as Aga Khan Hospital. Now they have then they built the university and they've attached med to the hospital. That is simple access for their students, right? Do we have an ethical feature? What actions will be taken to protect the name? These are the kind of trusts that you see dynastic families pass on, all right? Is there shared responsibility so that every generation understands its place in the journey? Understand that your role is to receive, steward, multiply, transfer. Ethical filter, are there measures where we can course correct one another tied with governance to character building and sustenance? All right? So we have to come back to one thing. Intergenerational transfer starts at home. Home starts with you as your personal and you as your home. So the question we're asking as we return is, does your personal life reflect what you believe? And then therefore, does your home reflect what you're trying to build? Because the true test of intergenerational transfer is not the boardroom. It is in the consistency that you lived with, that what you model and what you reinforced daily. So I cannot say as Kyesubire, I am keen on intergenerational transfer and be the one to put roadblocks and gatekeep against Gen Z and Gen Alpha and Gen Beta. I cannot be the one to hoard knowledge. If I am keen on, as a Pan-Africanist, ensuring that the next generation will not end up colonized because of thinking West is best, I cannot, in my true mind as an intergenerational transfer champion, be stagnant in my growth. Can I have a difficult season? Yes. Can I struggle to grow? Yes. But I cannot allow stagnation. No. I can see you, OPP. I'm on the last two slides. Okay? So here, home first means you need to ask yourself those questions, and I'll drop this slide in the chat, okay? But you're living around cultures, what you're teaching, your character, transference, and all that, okay? Now, what I want us to do is to understand you did not start it, you won't finish it, but you have a core building block you hold. So we must be passing wisdom, character, insight, understanding, system, structure, thought models. We must be passing the capacity to think continuity, longevity, reliability, strength, resilience, because that is where the tension of leadership sits. It is how well we set up the next generation. So this is what I want you to remember. Intergenerational transfer is a continuous cycle. It starts at home with me as the individual, and it is a launch pad, not a gift. And it is the intentional transfer of tangible and intangible assets so that future generations do not have to start from scratch and they can accelerate their progress. And if you remember nothing else, intergenerational transfer is a choice. So what choice have you made? Not by your words, by your actions. Because what you do every day is telling us the choice you have made about intergenerational transfer. Thank you. You are muted, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. I thought I had unmuted. Thank you very, very much, Kyesubire. I love this topic. I'm thinking like we should be here until 9, but we have to keep our promise of
Yes.
bringing. So I'm thinking we have a couple of questions, but I want to request that we move to the official close and then you can handle them. So I request that people with questions can stay behind. And even as we are doing that, because of time, we always have to stop at 8:09, at 8:15. I also want to remind people that we do have this every Monday, and we use the same link. So mark it in your diary, mark it in your calendar, set your reminders, and also you can follow the channel that we just posted to get updates on what topics are coming. So, Noel, move to
Oh,
maybe.
okay. We have had speakers, but so far so good. This is one of my best topics in Power Monday. Like Kyesubire, you've done an awesome job. I was expecting a red lipstick, but anyway, but I love that color on you. That color looks good. That color looks good. You see, the advantage of us dark-skinned ladies is that most of the lipstick colors and nail polish colors just look good on us. I know OPP will not understand because, yes, he cannot understand that. But Kyesubire, you have done an amazing job, and that lipstick looks good on you. It looks good on you. So I call upon no, Maurice Omondi, who is going to give us the vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you so much for the honor. To say thank you so much, Kyesubire Talitwala, for this wonderful talk you have given us this morning about intergenerational transfer. You said it's not just about money, it's about also values, and these are topics which are very dear to many of us. We always ask ourselves what will exist beyond us, and what we are today is basically what we got from others. Actually, I wrote that what we are benefiting from things we did not build, and are building things we may never fully see. And that is why people sometimes encourage to plant a tree, because sometimes the shades we use right now were trees planted many years ago, and we need to plant trees so that new generations will enjoy it. So we thank you so much. I wrote also the issue of the cycle of stewardship: receive, steward, multiply, and transfer. I wrote a lot of notes, talked about, I like this one, that mistakes are data, not judgment. I think sometimes we tend to focus so much on the mistakes, and yet they're just data which pass, and we end up spoiling relationships. I also wrote about human capital, social capital. I just thought about many things about the issue of stability, profitability, home fat. I think that was another key point, that whatever we do, we must focus on our homes. So does your personal life reflect what you say or you believe? I think that is the biggest challenge for us. I don't know what ladies say, but we men, we sometimes we say the words and act, we do a lot of things thinking that our children appreciate what we are doing, and we are paying school fees, etc. But if we don't say it, even to our wives, that if you don't say that I love you, or you tell your children that I love you, maybe they might not be recognizing what you are doing. So sometimes what you do in your personal life should really reflect what you are doing. So the same thing for ladies. You could be doing a lot of things, but you also say it by word, just a thought. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank so much the Power Monday team led by Otino Paul Peter, Lady Noel. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucita, for the poem or the poem When It Ends. Perhaps Lady Noel, you should ask Lady Lucita next time what was running in her mind when she did this poem, because it is so heavy, and we resonate with it, because many of us tend to hold on to things even when they have gone. So we really thank you so much. And thank you so much, Cynthia Wanyoni, also for your role in this. And all this, a number of series actually, I think for the last couple of Power Mondays, almost three, and for the next 3 or so months, we really thank so much Falcon for sponsoring and supporting all this. We really appreciate what you are doing, because through your partnership, we're able to get these powerful speakers. Despite all the good things I've said, if there were no participants in this particular Power Monday, all this will just go to naught. So all this that I've mentioned are the foundation, but the real thing, the building of this is the participants who sign up for Power Monday today and even every other Power Monday. So we really, really appreciate you and encourage you to continue participating and utilize the learnings we gain here. Last week, Otieno Paul Peter asked, and maybe this should be a point of reflection when we meet one of these days, is people to share. How are these sharings that we have changing our lives to become better? Personally, it has really made me a better person. It has made me to let go some hurt of the past and to embrace new thinking, new ways of thinking. And so we really thank every participant who came, and we believe that this has really been a life-changing platform for all of us. Others, thank you very much, and may God bless you. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Maurice Omondi. Maurice Omondi is one of us. Asante sana. Thank you so much. Kyesubire, you've told me you're trying a new shade. Yeah, it looks good. It looks good on you. Okay, guys, thank you so much.